It's a new year, 2023, and to lead off today's episode, I thought it would be fun to enlighten you on a few of the most anticipated phenomena coming down the pike.
Are these like events that you think are going to happen?
No, these are events that are going to happen, but one of them is fake, and you have to name which one is false. Ready? Jimmy Kimmel is back hosting the Oscars, his first time since 2018.
Okay. Well, what are the other ones? Yeah, I'm gonna guess at the end.
There's a new Hunger Games movie with Peter Dinklage and Jason Schwartzman coming out this year.
Okay.
If you're in North America, there will be a Ring of Fire solar eclipse in October, the biggest one, I think, since 2017. Remember when Donald Trump did that
with the glasses, yeah.
Yeah. And then Super Nintendo World is opening in Universal Studios Hollywood. It will include a ride called Mario Kart Koopa's Challenge and have a Toadstool Cafe. Comes out a couple months before the movie. All right. And then the last one, Hershey is marketing an edible e-reader.
An edible e-reader. How does that work?
It's chocolate.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of those.
So we have the Oscars.
We have the Oscars with Jimmy Kimmel. We have
the Hunger Games.
We have the new Hunger Games movie.
The solar eclipse.
You have the solar eclipse coming in October.
Mario.
Super Nintendo World.
Super Nintendo World. And then the
Hershey bar. / Kindle reader.
And you're saying one of these is fake. I'm going to go with the middle one. I'm going to go with the solar eclipse.
The solar eclipse is absolutely happening. Not only that, there's going to be another solar eclipse happening the year after that's going to be even bigger. It's a total solar eclipse.
Okay, so then what was the one that was fake?
Hershey is not marketing an edible e-reader. That sounds like something I would see Hershey come out with on an April Fool's Day. I
was going to say a South Park
campaign.
Yeah.
But Netflix is also trying to do something new in the new year. It released Kaleidoscope, which is an optical instrument that most kindergartners would recognize, but now it's also the title of this new series, 9 episodes. And let me see if I understand the shtick correctly.
Yes.
There is no episode order. The code is randomized to give every user a different storytelling experience, and it took 25 years to make.
25 years to make? Well, okay, so there's a couple different things. One, what was your first point?
My first point is that there's no episode order.
So every single, you can watch the episodes in any order except for the finale. And I know that also the critics were given the episodes in a specific order. But White, the name of the season finale, is the one that, they keep to the ending no matter what episode order you get.
See, that's what I assumed, is that you would need to see, there would need to be a finale episode. Mm-hmm. So it's the opposite of Clue, where everything is the same up until the very ending, where you can get alternate endings, which I almost, no offense to this show, kind of prefer, because I kind of like the unpredictable nature of it. But let's see if this was a genius idea or if it was a gimmick. That's what we're here to discuss. Yes. The episode that I was given first, and I don't know about the critics, but what I was given first was Yellow.
You, along with, I think, 90% of other people, including the critics.
Odd. Okay, so 48 minutes. That's how long the episode is. It stars Giancarlo Esposito. And the whole show, I think, is an American heist story, the classic caper. And if you go on to tvtropes.org, which is something that I did, the caper is defined as this. It often revolves around a brilliant gentleman thief who just got out of jail and is hoping to do one last job, usually by putting the band back together, a ragtag bunch of misfits. If one or more of the crew works for the target, it's an inside job, and it can lead to a just like Robin Hood rationalization, steal from the rich to give to the poor. The crew's leader will inevitably present the job as a simple plan that is certain to go off the rails due to unexpected variables. Now, this is the summary for this show. Leo, a gentleman, is out of prison, hoping to do one last job to score $7 billion. But first, he has a checklist that needs attending to. He needs a supplier, a driver, a forger, security, and a chemist. He already has the inside man. The plan? Simple. The vault they're trying to break into is high tech, and so they're going to go low tech. Think of the reverse Obama, where they go low, you go high. This is where they go high, you go low. And of course, he works out of a garage. Yellow is the preparation episode. It's where they assemble the crew together. Normally in a movie, you get a montage here, right? But instead, we get a full 40 minutes where not only do they bring everyone together, but they also try to get the seed capital operation, which is its own separate theft, in order to fund the bigger operation, because they're going to need a lot of money to get to this really, really hard to reach vault that's run by Roger Sal's company. He is the mark, Roger Sal's.
So aside from all the like kind of positions that you said they need for the heist, when I was like hearing kind of the summary for this show, it reminded me of Money Heist, just with all of those like flashbacks whenever they were explaining what they were doing being kind of their own separate episode.
Yeah, what I was trying to say with the classic caper thing is it could remind you of any American heist story. It is basically as simple as it gets, as cliche as it gets. You've got the supply guy, that's Stan. He can get you anything from a rare toucan to a center cut filet because he's a butcher normally. But like when people come in there, he can just like pass them over the counter anything that they're asking for.
Right.
And then you have the driver whose name is Roy Jr. He's the youngest of the group. He goes by RJ, and he's a mechanic who loves to drum on stuff. Everybody's got their own little quirk.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so you remember them. Then I'm not sure who the forger is. Like I must have missed the part where they explained who that was, and I couldn't figure it out afterwards. But then the security person is Ava. She likes to walk her dogs, and she has a full gun arsenal basement. She also knows Leo from before times. Like there might have been a romantic interest there at some point.
They always have to have that.
But she has like kind of the Kingsman John Wick supplies in her closet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like where they reveal all these guns. The funniest line was when he said, and we might need a chemist, because then you could just hear the Breaking Bad opening occur behind him, like dun, 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 dun. No, but it's just Judy. She lives in Philly doing low-level jobs with her boyfriend, who's played by Jai Courtney, a.k.a. Bob, and she can make whatever. Like she's talking about making fentanyl derivatives to knock people out, and I guess we're going to see her
so they're
in
polar
action
opposites
later.
Because what I've heard about Bob Goodwin, is that like everyone hates Bob. Like he's untrustworthy. Like he cannot pull off anything if you were to put him in a position.
Yeah, he's supposed to be an asshole character that everybody's just ticked off by. I don't know why he necessarily has to stick with the crew, other than that they want to provide a little bit of spice to it. But like honestly, I think they should kick him out, especially with what happens to him later in the episode. The plan, break into a highly secure vault, the way they tell us, like Stefan from SNL, okay?
Wait, what?
Yeah, they're basically, the vault has everything. 3 doors, an underground, secure subfloor, biometric sensors, uninterrupted power. When they said biometric sensors, though, I thought back to Treason, where they were like, biometric sensors are the way to go. They're unhackable. And so these people are going to go ahead and hack it.
With low tech.
With low tech. And then so the whole team then gets hung up, though, on that seed money that they want. So they're trying to figure out different plans to get the money before they go in for the big mission, right? And then we go to the other main central storyline with the main character who's played by Tati Gabrielle. You would know her from You, Season 3, and also The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. She plays a character named Hannah.
Oh, Hannah Kim.
Yes.
Okay.
There's this old episode of MacGyver that I remember where he's hired by a bank to come and break into the bank or find their security flaws that way.
Okay.
And she's sort of doing that in this first scene. She goes by an alias Laura, seduces one of the bank's higher-ups by staging a meet-cute, and at a coffee place, plants a bunch of cameras on her, gives her gifts with like cameras, like there's a little camera in a book because she knows she likes books. And then she steals her passcodes that way, loops the cameras, steals $12 million in gold bars, and just walks out of the vault.
That seems like the most convoluted way to introduce a character.
It's like Imposters, that old TV show that came out. I forgot what network.
I think it was on Bravo.
Yeah, it was on like Bravo, and that's the way they presented it, where it was just so goofy that you had to just like live it through.
It seems almost like an Edgar Wright knockoff, where he likes to do a lot of like quick editing, so it's like really stylish.
Just believe it, just believe it, right? And so then we find out that she's not actually a criminal. She works for the mark of the first part of the show, Roger Sal's, the guy who owns that giant vault. And what they're trying to do is to prove to the clientele of these other banks, the triplets as they call them. One is the I think like he's related to Kim Jong-un, and he has like billions of dollars. And then there's Susan Grosvenor, who knows King Charles, and then there's Stefan Tilla, who is a Swiss CEO. They're all billionaires, and they're trying to convince them separately that the places that they're storing their money are not secure, by proving that by breaking into those places and stealing their money, right?
Yeah, right.
And so once they present their money back to them, they're like, keep it at our vault instead. You know, it's just an elaborate sales pitch. And then this is where we get sort of a history lesson on the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act of 1982. So before 1982, you could get a bearer bond without any name on it. So when it was stolen, whoever had it in their property, that was their money, right? But then after 1982, the U.S. government saw that as too much of a security risk and said, okay, you have to be attached to it, but any bearer bonds that exist before 1982, anybody who has them in their possession actually owns that money. So that is the money that these triplets have, $7 to like $12 billion in bearer bonds that they're putting into this vault, and that is the money that that Giancarlo Esposito's crew wants to steal.
Can I interrupt, because it seems like a lot of this backstory was just explaining why there's so much money in this vault, and especially for a show like this, did it really feel like it needed that backstory? Because I feel like if you're making money, like even Money Heist was just like, okay, it's a bank, we're gonna rob this money, and they focused more on the actual heist itself.
Since every episode can be watched independently, I think they probably retread the same facts over and over and over again, so they want to make sure that people feel like they understand it. So I think that the triplets, by stating who they are and where they come from, and like by doing that, they allow for themselves in future episodes to basically do quick synopsises of that. So when you finally get to this episode, or if you start with this episode, you get the full picture.
I actually saw a couple reviews said that they were a little annoyed because in some episodes, like they would do things, and then in different episodes they would explain and they would like have to come up with decisions on what to do, but they already knew what they were going to go with because of the way that the episodes
comes with
ordered.
The territory. That's why I'm like 25 years in the making, like, and this is what you came up with. Anyways, so Roger Salles, he's the guy who owns this really secure vault, right? His right-hand peeps, Hannah, who is applying for the junior VP, and then so is Rajiv. He's another big right-hand man. And then you have Andrew, who's the senior VP, right?
Yeah.
So those three serve as his main counsel. And then Hannah brings up to him that there's a bug in the system. And that's the only way that there could be a bug in the system is if one of the inside people is messing with them.
Yeah.
So they make a poison pill plan, and lo and behold, Andrew, they find a USB drive stitched into his case, kind of like an Echo 3, and it proves that he is a villain. But you see the shock on his face, and you're like, wait, something's going on here. And by now, you also realize that Hannah is the inside man who Leo is working with, and also probably his daughter. Like, we've just seen so many scenes with Hannah where it was so obvious that she had something else going on. Also, she's pregnant. Also, she has a roommate who wants a job and gets a job in their mail room, which I guess is its own storyline.
Going back, what's a poison pill plan?
Pill is kind of like a honeypot where they let the villain think that they are doing something nefarious, like getting into the system and doing and being able to transfer money or steal code or something like that. But by doing that, they attach themselves to it. Mm-hmm. Like they put a little tracker on whoever has come in there, and so it just flows back to Andrew, right?
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Mr. Robot.
Yeah, it should, because I used the word honeypot. But then we return back to Leo's team, right? And after much discussion and a poorly edited joke that was supposed to lead us down another possible avenue to get this money, like he keeps on describing this mission, I think it was called OTB, that he was so sure about, Leo was, about how they could get all their money and funding for this. And then suddenly a newspaper article falls in front of him and it just says, it ain't happening. And that was supposed to be super funny, and it just wasn't. So the game
it's one of those things where he like dives really deep into it, and then afterwards, it's like all that was
a guaranteed win by them, and then it just didn't happen. But they did it so quickly, the ending part of the joke, that you would miss it if you blinked. So the gang decides to do what would later be called a brazen jewelry heist by the media. Mm-hmm. And you know Uncut Gems, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It takes place in the Diamond District in New York, right? Mm-hmm. Or at least one Diamond District.
Yes,
it might not be in New York, but it
was in New York.
Yeah. So basically what you learn is that there's this whole block that is in Midtown New York, and it has $400 million going in and out of it every day, 4,000 security cameras, a bunch of undercover security, and it's just a bunch of jewelry shops, right?
Yeah.
So people go there as tourists to buy jewelry, and the history lesson is that Nazis invaded the Netherlands and Belgium during World War II, Orthodox Jews and Europeans fled, and many settled in the Diamond District and set up shop there. So, well, what do our lovable gang of thieves do? They decide to steal from them. I guess the justification is that the people that they're going to steal the bigger money from, the $7 billion worth, some of them have connections to Nazis. So, like, even though they're stealing from Jews here, it would balance out. I don't know. But it gets even worse because how did they decide to steal the money? Well, in New York City, they use trash bombs, gas, and they tase the undercover security. Not like New York has ever been traumatized in history by random attacks of violence, and that trash bombs couldn't hurt anyone. And they gas. They use gas they throw gas in the middle of the streets and then into the shops of a bunch of Jewish people. That just seems so ill-conceived.
Well, I didn't know about any of that. I know that the story is loosely inspired by a real-life story in which $70 billion of bonds on Wall Street were endangered, but that was because, like, weather conditions, like a hurricane happened, and then when they checked the vault later on, it was like all the money was gone.
But also, that has to do with a bigger heist, which we don't even get into. This is all the heist leading up to the heist.
Oh, the small heist.
Yeah, okay. This is the funding heist that we're talking about. And the way they decided to do it was on Bob's idea to rob Diamond Way.
Of course it was Bob.
Well, Bob, I don't think came up with the gassing. Like, that just seemed dumb. And but Bob does do something risky. They have 90 seconds. I don't think that they would have 30. No cops show up in those 90 seconds until the very end, where they shoot Bob in the hand because he decides that he doesn't want to go at the right time. He wants to get this particular piece of, like, this gem or something that's in the window, and he's just beating away at it. So he gets shot in the hand, but the problem is he's supposed to be the vault guy, the one who's like...
Right, the one that's supposed
to crack in the safe.
Yeah.
And so someone asks later on, when you're seeing him get surgery in the garage, and his hand is mangled, they say, can he crack a safe with one hand? And the answer is no. I don't care who you are. The answer is no. You hire someone else. And yet, no one seems to want to do that.
He only needs one hand.
This is a guy that they didn't even want to begin with. He was attached to the chemist, Judy, and he forced himself onto the team. He's a dick to everyone, and he actively puts everyone in danger and doesn't follow orders. He shouldn't be there. And yet it didn't seem like anybody was making that point. It ends with Leo and Hannah hanging out, discussing the job, and he's clearly her father. We get that reveal once more. And that's where the episode sort of closes out.
Oh, that's the end of the episode. So you don't get, like, real like, the plot of the episode doesn't kick in yet.
Well, again, it's assembling the team, getting the seed money, which they do.
But they're not focusing on the big plot.
They kind of outline what they're going to do, that they're going to break into this vault. But out of 9 episodes, it felt like they did get quite a bit done.
Okay.
So the pros I found were the little history bits, like the bearer bonds. I didn't know much about the 1982 bill. And then also the Diamond District. Didn't know much about that until I did some research. Apparently there's like 3 of them out there in the U.S. And then they use the word chinwag. This is the second time in the last week that I've heard it. And I haven't heard it before. It's a British expression. And then it just means chit-chat. And then there was the thing that made me laugh where he mentioned a chemist, which I think must have been on purpose.
Okay, now you get into your cons.
My cons were that there's constant jazzy music in the background to kind of lead us into the episode, making us feel like, well, this is cool, you know? And then there's vague pseudo-intellectual narration by Leo. Like, I don't have a problem with Giancarlo Esposito. I think he is amazing in Better Call Saul and also Breaking Bad. But, like, they give him these shows where he's supposed to play sort of a different type of character, and the lines they have him saying are just, I would relate it to what is slam poetry, right? Where it's just kind of random and it's off the cuff and it doesn't actually play too much. It just fills the air, you know? Mm. Because trust can be earned, it can be given, and it can be stolen, okay? Later on, I went on to the next episode only for like the first 2 minutes, which I found to be Green. Yeah. That's the name of the episode, right. And it took place in the past. He said things like this: criminals come in all different flavors. No matter what kind you are, you do it long enough, you fall.
What?
I'll give you one more. We see a need for it, we fill it. He's talking about criminals here. A chance, and we take it. Toeing up to the line. Knowing when the moment comes, we're going to jump right over it. When it works, it's magic.
Wait, are these aren't all in the same?
Yes, and then they zoom out, and he's writing it in a diary. He's writing that exact message in a diary. The jokes didn't work. The police lineup joke, there was one where Bob was in a police lineup, and it was something you would see on network television. And then there was the OTB, that mission that fell through, and then gassing the Diamond District is what made it truly awful. This was obviously supposed to be a really, really hyped up show. It came out on the 1st of January. That's a very highly sought out time period. It's shot in New York, Philly. It's got a Rolling Stones soundtrack. They played Sympathy of the Devil while they were taking out the people in the Diamond District.
It has the cast too, obviously,
and it's got
famous people.
Yeah, it's a lot of investment for basically a B quality movie script, you know? And my judgment is to make the show make sense given how strange it is that you can just watch whatever episode, right? is that they had to just dumb it down to super big stereotypes. And that's why it turned into a B movie script. Like, it probably could have been better if they had just made it into a normal heist show. My comparisons are Now You See Me, Baby Driver, Clue, the clunkier elements of Clue, and Imposters. And then I would give it a rating of 5. I think the show is oversold. I think it thinks it's more clever than it is. And the twist, which was that Hannah is actually a secret double agent working for her dad, it was very transparent.
Yeah, your sentiments are echoed in a lot of reviews. I'll get to what they say specifically in a second, but also people keep on saying that really the reason that Netflix probably greenlit this show was just for the gimmick itself, which is not only a gimmick that has been done before, but in multiple TV shows. And not only that, but...
Which ones?
Love, Death, and Robots, like Netflix, season 1, they did a similar thing. Now, granted, that was only 4 different altercations.
That's more of an anthology, too, because they don't connect exactly. Like, none of the stories are supposed to be connected, right?
Yeah,
in
right,
Love,
exactly.
Death, and Robots?
Yeah, and then CBS All Access did a show called Interrogation that starred Peter Sarsgaard, David Strathairn from Expanse, and Kyle Gallner. And it was structured in such a way to be watched in any order. And it was released back in February of 2020. And it received mixed reviews, like a 7.4 on IMDb and a 57% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I wonder if it's a lot like Accused, which comes out in a few weeks, which is also an anthology series, and it's based on a British one that came out like 10 years ago and follows a different interrogation every episode, I think.
Yeah, well, John Mankiewicz, who worked on Interrogation, he was also the co-executive producer for things like House of Cards and Bosch, as well as a ton of like House MD episodes. But getting back to Kaleidoscope, the show's creator, Eric Garcia, has worked on a lot of different things, and with no ability. I mean, Repo Man, he did the remake for it. The Autopsy of Jane Doe, which came out in 2016. I found this hilarious because he did one of the most ridiculous films I've ever heard of when I saw the synopsis for it. So it was a failed 2004 pilot titled Anonymous Rex. Have you ever heard of this thing before?
No, just tell me about it.
It tells the story of dinosaurs that wear human disguises and solve private investigation crimes. Mm-hmm. And no place wanted to pick this thing up, but they rebranded it as a standalone science fiction film, and then they aired it on Sci-Fi.
No one wanted to pick it up even after Dinosaurs was such a success?
Yeah, and I think like the standalone film also only has like a 4.2 on IMDb.
So he hasn't done anything with like critical acclaim, right?
Yeah, but he's worked on big films.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So maybe Netflix did know what they were getting. They've released things like The Gray Man. What was it? Underground 6.
Underground, yeah.
They seem to just like to do these action comedies. This is less action, more just classic heist drama, and I just don't see how it would be super successful.
I know the original show was called Jigsaw, and then they decided to officially change it in November of 2022.
That makes sense, yeah.
It took 8 episodes. They did film it in New York. They filmed in Brooklyn on September 1st, as well as 28 Liberty and Manhattan's financial district.
Oh, for sure. You can tell this is definitely New York. They weren't putting in a set for it.
And for a show that also, again, its main gimmick was so many different episodes, all of them in a different order except for the finale. Like I said, 90% of people said that they ended up on yellow, and I think the first 3 episodes were similar, like yellow, blue, and green or something.
I might not even fault them for that. That might be a Netflix coding thing. Like, you can produce and make the episodes all you want, but when it comes down to how the platform decides to put it out there, I don't think that they have much power when it comes to that.
The one note I have is that every review says do not start with orange and do not start with blue.
So there are literally times where you just can't. Okay, yeah. It's just
and they say end the series with pink and white. The season finale has more mixed reception. I know that Pink, I think, is considered to be one of the best episodes, and reviews have said that like it does get intense in certain moments, but that doesn't change the fact that the show itself just isn't really that good. It has a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. I know The Wrapped gave it a positive review. They praised the acting, and they said that it makes a strong argument why more shows should kind of follow this route, but it also has like a 7 on IMDb. And like the Hollywood Reporter said, Kaleidoscope proves only that a jigsaw puzzle approach narrative can be done, but not that there's any reason to do it.
You ever play with a Kaleidoscope as a kid?
No, not really.
I did when I was like small.
Well, I found it strange how they changed it to Kaleidoscope when Jigsaw, like a jigsaw puzzle. They just continually wanted to do something like that. They needed to name it after a game.
I wonder if they do something with mirrors, because that's how kaleidoscopes work. And it almost sort of like a Now You See Me, where it's a big magic trick. And it's like maybe that's how they get into the vault.
Is that why you compared it to Now You See Me?
No, Now You See Me, if you remember, they do a long emphasis on the bringing the group together.
Yeah.
And they're all got like these little quirky personalities. So there's plenty of reasons why I did that. Also, it's just a classic heist as well. But I think that's where we'll leave it today. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.